how can you claim to be intimate with somebody, to be growing together, to be learning about each other, to be intertwining lives, whether in deepening your relationship or in looking towards marriage and a long-term relationship, and you don't know about their money situation? My boyfriend wouldn't tell me his salary, so I ended it. I posted this story on my Instagram story the other day and it got lots of responses. So I wanted to just, take a moment to get further into the story and take this opportunity to talk about money in relationships, money in dating relationships, money in marriage. And we're going to do it some justice today and really talk about how to approach talking about how much you earn with your partner, why it's important, and some of the opinions I found about why this feels like a touchy topic. So here's the story. About 8 months into the relationship, my then partner and I were both looking at moving as both of our contracts were coming to an end. So we obviously discussed moving in together, which is when I initiated a serious conversation about money. I understand that people in the UK, this person's in the UK, they're 32, they live in London, they work in higher education, and they have been in the UK for about 4 years, dating on and off there. Okay. I understand that people in the UK are not comfortable talking about money, which is why I ended up dating someone for 8 months and not knowing how much they make. But I was shocked to learn that he would not consider disclosing how much he earned and his overall financial situation, even though we were to become one household unit. So it's pretty interesting. They were trying to move in together, but we're not ready to talk about money. I have my own personal feelings about living together without being married, but let's keep that today and just focus on the money and the relationship. The conversation was pretty much done in 3 sentences because he wouldn't budge. We were to find a flat and split everything, but we weren't to know of each other's finances. So we're going to split finances without knowing each other's finances. Even though he knew about mine, because I do not see money as a taboo. Yes, it shouldn't be a taboo. The ultimate reason why a conversation couldn't be pursued was because, and I quote, "My parents don't share finances and don't know how much each one has saved or is in debt, and they are perfectly happy." How do you know? I put an end to the relationship around that time because I couldn't see a future with him and he wasn't interested in communicating more, even when I expressed that. That's so interesting. And I've been talking lately about how the money habits, not just money habits, the habits of our parents, the things we see growing up really do influence us, whether or not we believe it. But this one is one of those explicit situations where you see that he literally said, "My parents were fine without talking about money. Why do we have to talk about money?" Lots of reasons, but I want to read more because she shares some more of her perspective, and this is from the Go Fund Yourself blog, which talks about a bunch of money things, mostly from women. When it comes to money and relationships, she says, this is why it was important to me to talk about money in relationships. When it comes to money and relationships, there are 2 main elements that are important to me: money attitudes and current financial situation. And I actually really agree with this because money attitudes help you understand the person's ideology about money. We just saw one of them where this guy is like, I saw my parents doing this and I think this is normal. And it's one thing to say, I think this is normal, but let's talk about it and figure out what our own normal will be. It's another thing to be like, this is what my parents did, this is what we're gonna do, end of discussion, which is what this guy was like. Money attitudes help you know whether this person is worth working with or whether this is just how they are, they're stuck in their own ways and there's no point trying to change them, because there's sometimes that's the case. And then their current financial situation can look like things like debt, wealth, inheritances, and their plans with them, investments. And just so you know, how can you claim to be intimate with somebody, to be growing together, to be learning about each other, to be intertwining lives, whether in deepening your relationship or in looking towards marriage and a long-term relationship, and you don't know about their money situation? I've scouted the internet for different perspectives so that I can kind of get into people's heads from Reddit, from other things, and I'll get into it. But I just feel like this is a really key reason why we talk about money in relationships: to know what their ideologies are about money, understand their money attitudes, and understand their current financial situation and how it impacts your life. Because if you're merging lives with somebody, you need to know these things. Okay. Oh, literally, that's the next sentence. If I'm to share my life with someone, I need to understand if this person is willing to work with me towards the same goals. Yes. How risk or debt averse they are. For example, I personally was I didn't understand the whole mortgage system for a really long time. I didn't get how or why people would be willing to go into $500,000, $1 million in debt to get a house. I'm like, why can't you just wait till you can afford one? It took a lot of education, a lot of listening to shows like this, reading blogs to kind of get it, why there's good debt and bad debt. So again, these are things you need to know. How risk or debt averse they are, and if they are actively saving for the future, and why or why not, because these things are important, They also need to be honest about their situation if they're in debt, and tell me how they're working towards repaying it. And this to me feels like second nature. Like, of course you want to know how somebody is doing if they're in debt, because if they're in debt but they're not doing anything to pay it, they're literally, the debt is ballooning because they are gaining interest every day on that money that they're not paying back. And there are ways you can work together to cut spending, to attack the debt and like cover it. It just makes sense that you would want to talk to somebody you're in a relationship with for over 8 months about money. Do you not think so? I actually want to hear from you. This is streaming on YouTube, but also on my podcast platforms and Spotify, Apple, and the rest. So come talk to me on YouTube at Fopsy Podcast and leave comments over here, because I'm like, this feels like second nature to me, but it's very interesting to see that there are different perspectives about it. So I really cannot see how couples can have separate finances in today's economy. I'm happy if it works for them, but to me it seems like a slippery slope into possible financial abuse, which is a very interesting point. There are some couples who hide money from each other, or who operate and who also operate separate finances, but I think that's a different thing. There are couples who agree to operate separate finances, and there are couples who just like live separate lives and they don't really interact. Because if you choose to operate separate finances, it's possible that you still have a joint account that deals with joint expenses, but then there are people who just never talk about it. And in today's economy, like she rightly said, there's a lot to harness from having joint finances, like tax benefits of being a couple, or even just like if one person is making so much less than the other person, there are ways to like figure out whether you want the person, whether it makes sense for the person to continue working, or whether it makes sense for them to like stay home and take care of children. There are many things to consider, like the person's future earning potential, the true cost of leaving the job and things like that. But like, you cannot have these conversations except you really know how much each other is earning. Like, it just seems like you can't really work towards oneness without understanding what you're working with. So let's stop that story there. But in my head, this money thing feels like a straightforward conversation. Money helps you plan. Money helps you determine if you're a good fit for each other's lives. Knowing each other's financial situation helps you understand their money habits, their history, how they've been, and some of their dreams even, and helps you when you come together and have like shared dreams and shared goals. Money feeds into that. If you decide you want to travel together, you need to save towards that. If you decide you want to buy a house together, you need to save towards that. If you decide that you want to retire early, you need to start investing so that your money is working harder for you. And like, how do you have these conversations about your dreams and your hopes if you can't have conversations about money, which is an enabler of many of these things? So that's why in my head it just feels like, why are we even talking about this? But I get that not everybody has made that connection, but I want to hear from you, like, what are some reasons in your head why this might not be as straightforward a conversation? You also want to know about like habits with money. If they're reckless with money, how can you get help to stop being reckless with money? In marriage, it's all the more important because you literally have merged your lives. How can you merge your bodies, your homes, everything, but your money is like up in the air? And even when things aren't ideal, like say one person is really reckless with money and you feel like you have to operate independently, I don't feel like that's a state you should stay in. If you know that somebody is not good with money, you shouldn't just be comfortable staying like, okay, I'm not good with money and that's it. But I said I wanted to have like a diversity of opinions, so I went to the internet to find out some reasons why people might be a bit skeptical about talking about money. Somebody asked about talking to their new girlfriend of 3 months about how much she earns, and in response somebody responded, why would you share it? You just met her. It's a private matter. I wouldn't share it with anyone unless you trust her 100% right away. And I feel like 3 months is not you just met her. That's another thing. I went from hello to I do in about a year, so like 3 months is not nothing. Like I don't like the idea of just taking time talking about everything except the important things in a relationship. And like sometimes when you watch all these reality TV shows, I'm yet to watch Love is Blind, and I know I should watch it so that I can have like commentary to talk about like relevant things. But sometimes people are just talking about everything except the important things. People are sleeping with each other without knowing each other's last names. you are like out here about to move in with someone, you don't know how much to earn. And I'm just like, how are these things possible? If you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, it comes with a certain level in my head of being naked and unashamed. So not just being in a relationship with someone, but like when you're committing to somebody, right? And I'm going to go like into the realm of marriage and joint lives. The concept of being naked and unashamed is like a Christian principle of like Adam and Eve when they got married, or when did that they got married? I don't know if they got married, but like something happened and they were husband and wife. I think God literally created Eve and was like, here's your wife. So I don't know if they got married, but back to the point. To be aware of each other's financial strengths and weaknesses is, in my head, a form of being naked and unashamed. You really want to understand what's your net worth, what's your debt, do you have any debt, any credit card debt, any loans you haven't paid back, how much do you earn. It's just another way of becoming free with each other and understanding each other's what they're working with, so that you know what you're getting yourself into, because you're about to merge lives together. If you're going to merge lives with someone, how do you not want to know what their financial situation is? So yeah, this concept of being naked and unashamed comes with being fully aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses and being able to help each other. You come as you are, even financially. You say, hey, here is my debt, here are all the loans I have, or I have no loans, I have no credit card debt, here's all the money I've saved, here's all the money I've invested, here's who I am. And the other person comes with their own, and then you're aware of each other's baggage or wealth that they've brought into the relationship, and then you're able to walk from there. But without knowing this, you're pretty much going in blind, and I don't get that part. So for me, it's also part of how you grow intimately. Financial intimacy is also a process of growing into it. And next, I'm going to actually talk about how to talk about money in a relationship and this concept of growing intimately with each other. But before then, I want to highlight that when you say you love somebody, it's also a measure of like where your treasure is. And there's a verse from the Bible that says that where your treasure is, so your heart, that's where your heart will be. Let me find it so I can quote it properly. So it's from Matthew 6:21. It says, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So it's like, if you say you love somebody, you should treasure them above other things. So is it your money or is it your partner? Is it your money or is it your wife? Is it your money or is it your husband? Is it your money or is it your boyfriend? Like, don't you love them more than your money? I don't know. It's so straightforward to me that I'm struggling with like comprehending why this might not be more straightforward to other people. But okay, I've seen people here who said like they were very wronged in divorces situations in the past, and they just feel like now they're really guarded about talking about money. There are people who feel like they've been in relationships where once the person knew that they were making 4 times once the girl knew that he was making 4 times her income, she would just be like, oh, I need XYZ, I'm going to make my hair, like just assuming that he's now a tap that she's just going to turn on every time she needs something. So there's some weirdness that people have experienced in the past. But here's the thing, if you've had experiences like this in your past, you know now how to know better. You're not looking for somebody who you're going to be hiding your financial situation from. You're looking for somebody who is not treating you differently based on your financial situation. So you kind of want to have these money conversations quicker, so you can weed out people that are not a good fit for you, is how I see it. Okay, let's move on quickly to how to actually talk about money in relationships and some do's and don'ts, how to approach this conversation so that you can actually walk towards understanding what you both have.